Yes, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Chopping It Up with Charms. You're with the man himself, and today we're going to be running over all of the week's football news, particularly attaining to the European fixtures we've seen in between the Tuesday to the Thursday. I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on Chelsea today, but the weekend is ahead of us, and we are back to our regularly scheduled Premier League fixtures. Chelsea will be taking on Newcastle. I've got a good feeling about that, but we'll get into all of that. We'll get into all of it. We'll also be dipping into a little bit about United, a little bit about Spurs. But as I said, primarily we're going to focus on that Chelsea news. And where better to start with Chelsea than with Mykhailo Mudryk. Listen, as much as I like Misha, I think he's a good football player. I think he's a great football player. I think he's rapid, good technically, confidence could still, I can't believe I'm saying this, confidence still needs to be worked on. But 2 assists in a goal last night against Panathinaikos and a 4-1 win, it's a good look. But I don't know, man. I like him, and the stats look good, and the performance is alright. He's in the right place at the right time. He does look dangerous. He does run for the ball an awful lot, and it could arguably be his best Chelsea performance. Maybe outside of a game at home against Palace a season or two ago, which I was really impressed by. I think he's got to go in January. I'm going to come out and say it, man. I think that the money we can get from Mykhailo Mudryk versus the performances that we're getting out of him, I think we can rekindle a lot of our investment that we had in him. And you're going to win some, you're going to lose some in this transfer market. You're going to win some and lose some in this business, in sports in general. And we've done a lot of winning some. Cole Palmer for 40 million pound, Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo is a joint 200 million, fair enough, but that's a double pivot for a 10-year period, 15-year period. Both of them look fantastic in my opinion. But you're going to lose some in Mykhailo Mudryk, and listen, with the way that his contract's been broke up over 7 or 8 years or however long it was, I'm sure that we can find a way to rekindle some form of finances and not to make too much of a loss on him, but listen, I think it's too little too late. I think that the players that we have to replace him, Pedro Neto, Sancho, Madueke, particularly Madueke, who I've been very, 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 very impressed of recently. We don't need Mykhailo Mudryk. And all the players I had listed just then, the 3 players I had listed, Madueke, Pedro Neto, and Jadon Sancho, all of them have been in the club since after Mykhailo Mudryk, So Mudryk was the first of the bunch of those. And I think that's kind of obvious, you know what I mean? It seems like we needed to get someone young and technical and fast and direct. So we got him, we got Neto, we got Mudryk, then we got Sancho, and Madueke kind of came out of nowhere. It's one of them ones, man. I think that at the time it was the right idea, but it wasn't the correct execution. I feel like now, in the back end of 2024, we've got to start looking at January as a point of departure, and I like Misha. I think he's a great young hard-working player. It's hard to come by players that work as hard as Mykhailo Mudryk in the modern day, but there's a lot of players that work fucking hard to be in that Chelsea side, and I think he's bottom of the pack at the minute. So I think that we've got to recoup a little bit of money, take 60, 70 million for him in January, and I'll be more than happy with that. I'm sure Arsenal wouldn't mind a sniff. They've not been looking amazing going forward. They've looked very solid defensively, but maybe they could use a Mykhailo Mudryk to replace Sterling. No, chill. But other teams, I'm sure a Dortmund or a Munich can do wonders with him. Individual player management could probably do a lot with him. But yeah, I'm getting a bit over the hill with Mykhailo Mudryk, man, and I think it's time to go. I spoke about it last week. I'll speak about it again this week. I think he's got to go. I think we've got to rekindle some money for him. But overall, I think the team played really well. I think Joao Felix looks fantastic. I think his passing range is excellent. He's always been a very good technical dribbler. He's always had an eye for goal, but I think he's finding his range a little bit more with the shooting. Not afraid to take pops from range, but at the same time, likes to take it down, go past the man, bring it as close as he can, even look to square it, but if he can shoot, he'll shoot. I like that about Joao Felix. I think he's a very high IQ football player, and it's something that we haven't really seen that much of in the modern era. You know what I mean? Players that are so on a swivel and so ready to make a decision instead of just doing what the autopilot tells them to do. And some players need the autopilot, like a Cole Palmer, I mean, he does play the incisive pass and whatnot, but I feel like with Palmer, it's just pick it up and go, pick it up and go. And I like that, you know, I want that energy from at least one or two players in the club. And I feel like Nicholas Jackson's another one, pick it up and go. But he, once again, can put his head in the swivel and see the pass. But Joao Felix was one is just a bit different. Because when he's 30 yards out, he's not just pushing, you know, he's trying to make smart little small passes and build up play incrementally. And I feel like he's going to be very, very important to this Chelsea side going forward, because I have been very impressed with Joao Felix and just his style of football and the way that he wants to play. I love it, and I'm here for it. And, you know, we're starting to get signs of the wonder kid that was tipped to win a Ballon d'Or when he was, you know, at Barca. The kid that was supposed to be the next best thing from Benfica, you know, his nine-figure transfer fee is absolutely butt wild, but we're starting to get around to that, you know, and you look in position for position, I can name you 4 or 5 players that you could argue had a 9-figure fee at one point in their career, and this is a Chelsea team that likes that, you know, Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, Joao Felix. I'm not going to say Mikhailo Mudryk, but he was getting bloody close at one point. Cole Palmer, I reckon, around that period now, you know, he's starting to look at that 110 million sort of marker. You know, and I'm looking around at other players as well. I'm looking at a player like Madueke, who right now I would reckon would be worth about 50 to 60 million. Which, if you said that to me this time last year, you would have been smoking as spice. So listen, the way that the team's been going now, I feel like the team is starting to become a very, very high level, a very, very high cost team on the transfer market, which doesn't mean anything because, you know, football's not played on paper, it's played on grass. But you know why I'm mentioning that? Because in the end of the day, football is a business. Chelsea is a particularly lucrative business. And I feel like right now, everyone wants to talk about what they don't know about. Everyone wants to talk about how much money we've lost. No one wants to talk about how much money we're earning on the sly. You heard? No one wants to talk about kit sales. No one wants to talk about how much money we are going to get back from these investments when they're transferred out. When we get them in and we get them out, and there's multiple millions attached to these players. You know, there was a bit of a situation going on with the Strasbourg thing a few months ago, which was very, very, very dodgy. Shout out David Washington. But listen, that's water under the bridge. A couple other things I wanted to talk about now that I've spoken about how excellent my football club is. Tottenham looked shaky. I think that the best player on the pitch was a 17-year-old Mikey Moore, who I've never heard of before that game, if I'm being totally honest. Postecoglou seemed to be happy with their overall team performance, which I think is an absolute joke, and it shows how far down Tottenham have got. And yeah, they just look embarrassing right now. Man United, if we're going to be speaking of embarrassing, celebrating a 1-1 draw with Fenerbahce, celebrating being undefeated in Europe after not winning a single game in 3. You're also unwinnable, yeah, in Europe, yeah. So how about we pipe down a little bit? You're 21st in the European tournament with 24 teams in it. And maybe it's 32, I don't know, chill. I might have got the numbers wrong a bit, but you're 21st, 100%, yeah? And you suck. Fenerbahce are 14th, and they were disappointed. Andre Onana kept you in the game. You should have lost 3-1, maybe 4-1, you know? It could have been a violation, but it wasn't, thankfully, for the one person that all the United fans seem to want to get out, but he's the only person that actually looks like he cares about the team, bar maybe a Garnacho here and there, and Amad Diallo, who's still a bit too young. Speaking of, where was he? Where's Amad Diallo at? Wasn't he your player in a month? Like a month ago. And now he's just not playing football. And I don't know. Osama bin Hag, thank you. Thank you for everything you've done to harm my rival team, Man United. Thank you for everything you've done in creating a lot of pain inside of Manchester at the moment. You know, I'm sure Carrington is a very, very cold, lonely place when you're there. I'm sure that not many people are really listening to the ideas that you're bringing forward, because I don't think that they make any sense, and I'm very grateful for that. You know, so Mazraoui in the 10, thank you. You know, Mazraoui in the 10, Amad Diallo not playing, Garnacho barely getting a sniff because no one's providing him service. Højlund, probably a bit better than I thought he was going to be, but I thought he was going to be terrible. He's kind of a disappearance merchant. You're relying on your centre-back scoring last-minute goals week in, week out. Listen, it is what it is. It is what it is. Man United stink, but my point is, I think football's at its best when United are at their best. Because everyone likes a villain to hate. And, you know, as a Chelsea fan, we seem to be the villain for the last decade or two. But for me, it's always been United. And when United are at their best, I can celebrate when they lose, you know. Because at the minute, every time they go 1-0 down to a Nottingham Forest, it seems there's a sense of normality about it. There's a sense of, that makes sense. But when I was 15, when I was 13, that didn't make sense. That was bad. That was a bad look. But I'm 26 out here now. I'm a full-grown adult. And I watch United get slapped on the regular. Spurs done been slapped. But then, man, football's better when Man United are up. Because when they lose, the juice from that fruit is just different level of nectar. Anyways, stop doing the Randy Orton on the slide. But listen, that's been me. That's another episode of Chopping It Up with Charms. And if you like this, then like this. You know what I'm saying? If you want to hear more, then subscribe to my conversation. Subscribe to the Two Blues podcast with immediate effect. I want to see an ice cold emoji. If you know what time it is, Ice Cube in the comment section. Lots of love. God bless. I'm Charms. You're you. Love.